It's time to experiment and create this entire animation inside of After Effects frame by frame. Let's do it.
TipTut.
Part 3, frame by frame animation. During the creation of this series, I realised that this project was much more complex and larger than I had intended. I often found myself backtracking, making mistakes, and exploring new ideas. Usually, I would cut this out of the episode to provide a concise experience, but for several reasons, this wouldn't work for this series. Therefore, rather than scrapping the episodes, I decided to leave in my mistakes, explorations, and thought processes, as I thought it might help provide a unique and helpful experience. With that in mind, let's get to it. Hello everybody and welcome back to TipTut. Last time, we animated the base elements for our character here, and this time we're going to be animating her arms because she looks a little bit silly, just bouncing a basketball without using her arms. The reason we split this up is because this is going to be a slightly different technique than we did last time, and I thought it would pay dividends to keep things simple for you guys, or as simple as a complicated animation can be. Oh well, let's do it. So, let's jump right in. We have got our animation here. We've added some wave warp effects to the trousers. I will add a wave warp effect to this little underside part here so that it stops breaking and showing those legs, back of the shorts through. Couldn't think of the word shorts then. So we've got shorts bot L, that's got a wave warp on it. We'll also put that wave warp on shorts under L, and that will fix that so that when it's flopping around like that, it won't cause any trouble. Okay, so animate these arms then. So at the moment, these arms, if we just collapse down what we don't need, or actually no, let's leave it there because it's all collected together in this purple section here. At the moment, these arms don't do anything. The only reason they're moving is because they're pinned to the rest of the body. Okay, so we're going to fix that now with a combination of the same keyframing techniques we've done before and some frame by frame animation as well. So let's work one arm at a time. If we take a look at what our basic keyframes did, we have an arm that is up. It kind of lifts a little bit. We've done that lift. It slams down and then returns to this kind of upwards hand position. Okay, we've each already got a drawing of each of these options because we have two arms. Yeah, one of the arms is already up, one of the arms is already down. So that's going to help us. So basically, we need to just make sure that these arms act in a way that we think is appropriate. I'm going to definitely be keyframing rotation. And I think that might be it, because we'll be redrawing these on most frames. So the reason we call this frame by frame animation is because we're going to be going through literally one frame at a time and changing this when it needs to happen. So here we've got some tweening animation. Okay, we've given it a keyframe, like so. We've given this a keyframe on frame 4. And it has decided, the computer has decided to generate what it thinks the lines should be between each of those two keyframes. Okay, so we've given it 2 inputs and it's made 4. What we're going to be doing with these hands is a combination of that and some frame by frame stuff. For example, by the time that reaches the floor, the arm is going to be completely different, a completely different position. We can see here from our guide, okay, that it's going to be all the way down. Now, for the first couple of those frames, we could probably get away with rotating. I'd say probably to about frame 2. Apart from the fact that that will affect the basketball because the basketball is linked to these hands. So that unfortunately means we won't be able to do that. The only way we're going to edit these then is frame by frame. And that's easy because editing the path of our shape, like so if we just come in and we keyframe this path here, and I just quickly grab one of these points and move it. You can see that moving the arm doesn't affect the movement of the basketball because you're only affecting the path, not the layer's position. And the layer's position is what determines how that basketball interacts with the hand because we pinned it with the pick whip. So if we choose instead to edit the path, say for example, we grab this path and we move the points, you'll see that between keyframes, you can change the position of the entire element. What this means is we can use this path again, but it will be technically a frame by frame animation. So let's do that. Let's grab our frames, our path, just by clicking points down here. And we're just going to shift it. Now, luckily, we've got our original guide here for the first position. Excuse me. You need to make sure you click on a point, otherwise it won't move the whole thing. But you will find that flicking back and forth here might get a little bit tedious. There's not really much you can do about that. I'm sorry. So what we'll do is we will grab a new keyframe. We have our first keyframe here, okay, which is the first frame of the animation. It already doesn't line up with the original sketch because we've deviated from that. So I'm just going to actually delete that original one now because we don't need it anymore. I'm going to take shape 1, path 1. I'm going to go to frame 1 and I'm going to hit a keyframe. Now, as you can see, all we're going to be trying to do at the moment is follow the movement of the body. I'm just going to turn off this layer so it's a bit less distracting. You can see the body literally doesn't move much at the moment, but the basketball does start to move. So we definitely need to make sure that that hand stays glued to the basketball. Okay, so we're going to go up and select our pen tool. We're going to select our pen tool, come down here and click on the path options. Now, selecting the path via the keyframes kind of level here will select everything. Selecting the keyframe will select all the points on that keyframe. But clicking the path option, like so, you can kind of see the difference here. These little squares are hollow. What that means is you'll be able to select individual points that you want to move. Now, if you shift click these, you'll start to be able to click all of the points you want to move. So I'm going to select everything on the hand. Oops, misclicked there. Including the wrist. I'm just going to shift that whole hand down. Just a touch, just so that it stays glued. And as you can see, you can kind of scrub back and forth between the frames and realize where you've made mistakes. That looks pretty good. We'll stick with that. Let's zoom out. So obviously at the moment, these guys, these little lines on the hands and things aren't going to follow it. So what I'm going to do, just so they don't get too distracting, is I'm going to hide all of them, including on this hand over here. Now we'll move over another frame. We'll add another keyframe in. We'll select path 1 so that we can choose the bits we want to edit. And this time I'm going to move the whole hand. So if you want to, you can click and drag to get your points rather than selecting the pen tool. And I'm just going to bring that down, but I'm then also going to have to, because otherwise our arm's going to get a bit fat. I'm just going to tweak these points here as well. And this is basically the frame by frame animation process in After Effects. You scrub back and forth and tweak until you're happy. So now I know I'm on frame 2. I can select an individual handle here. Maybe tweak some of these elements. That arm is now looking a bit thin. See, I made a mistake there and I clicked the actual keyframe. Clicking the keyframe will select all of your points. You just want to click the name of the path, which will help you select individual points. Okay, so the basketball has started to leave its hand now. Fine, its hand? Sorry, her hand. Bam. 1, 2, 3. On frame 4, let's have a look at what our guideline is saying. Saying it should be all the way down there. So we will turn that guideline on. We'll create a new keyframe. select our path, and we'll just drag this hand down. I'm going to try and align it. See, obviously, our keyframe at the moment says the ball's here, but that won't reach until the next frame. So I'm maybe just going to position it just so that it's not touching the ball anymore, because at this point, it's always been touching the ball. We may need to add in extra points, but because we chose that setting from the last episode, it shouldn't affect us. You can add in extra points on a frame-by-frame basis. You can delete points if you want to as well. I'm just going to work with what I've got though. By just trying to achieve a natural-looking arm shape. I think the shoulder is going to have to come all the way down because it would be a bit sort of flatter out at the moment. Let's bring some of this control down here. And as you can see, it's just kind of a process of tweaking until you get the shape that you're happy with. Excuse me, I just had some soup, so I may clear my throat a few times. Okay, looking pretty good. Bam, 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 bam. Okay, so we've got our first 4 frames here. We can fix and adjust individual points if they're looking a little bit janky. 1, 2, 3, 4 looks pretty good. I'm going to go to my 4th frame, 5th keyframe, add an extra one here. And this time, I think it'd be easier if we just delete the arm. And because we don't have preserve constant vortex, whatever, I'll just show you. I can't remember what it's called because it's got like a million words. If you go to edit preferences general, because we don't have preserve constant vertex and feather point count when editing mask checked, it means that between frames, we can have different amounts of points on each of these shapes, meaning that I can safely delete these extra bits, okay, between frames, move the hand and adjust into the positions that I want and the shapes that I want. So tweak this sort of thumb here. Delete that point, don't need it. And then I can add back in the points that I need to redraw the arm, because that might have been a little bit of a pain in the butt. For example, bring this guy up here, extend him out. Make sure it actually lines up with the body though. Don't just blindly follow the original. Like so. And because we don't have that setting selected, that means we can go between frames and just change all this stuff around, and it won't affect any of the frames before or after it. So there we go. We have our arm moving downwards. Let's turn off this background here, see what that looks like. Okay, it looks pretty good. Boom. Boop. And then it carries on because I have expanded the loop. So let's just look at that loop. Okay, looks pretty good. Let's go back in and grab that arm. So at this point, there's been a big boom, boom kind of movement, really snapping down. The next frame, the next keyframe that I drew was that arm back upwards. But I think I want it to hold here for a bit, because obviously the keyframes are just the key moments of movement, and we're now doing the frames in between. So I think what I'm going to do is add another keyframe here, grab all of the path elements that I want, and I'm just going to ever so slightly just shift these down. leaving the shoulder in the same place, of course. And what that's going to do is just allow it a bit of settling time. Yeah. Before in the next frame, because we've still got loads of time. The ball's already over there. Yeah. For it to match this other one down, we're going to have it start to come back up, and then it's going to reach back down to collect that ball. So I'd even have it stay here for a third frame. Maybe just push those points just a little bit further. Before, because you want it to come back up as she starts to bob this way. So that's fine. Let's now do the transitionary frame between this section. Let's add a keyframe. And I'm just going to grab pretty much everything and delete it, I think. My pen's got this weird, my mouse rather, has got this weird annoying thing where you'll make a point on a map, and then there'll be like a fraction of a second of lag, and that's why these points keep like turning around like this. It's really annoying. I don't know how to fix it. What we will do now is, I think, just largely get rid of all of these. We don't need them. And we'll just use the remaining ones. Just check that each time you do something big, just check that it's still working between frames, just in case something janky has happened. Like that. There you go. So I kind of like twisted it a little bit. And if I go and be very careful not to move the mouse even slightly, then it's fine. Weird. If that's happening to you as well, that might be why. So let's do this settling frame. We may push this over one. This might actually be this frame's drawing. But we'll get to that in a second. There you go. Clicking a point shouldn't change your path. It should generate a point that is going to have the right parameters here for the path to remain the same. If it does change slightly, so it should do that. If it does something like that, it's because you've accidentally clicked and dragged a little bit, or like I said, there's been some lag. You should be able to click and adjust, individually. Click, adjust. It should never adjust once you clicked. If it's doing that, try slowing down your motions just a little bit. Just going to come through and adjust here. Pull out that section, add in a point. Might be worth just adding in a point up here that I can bring to be this armpit so that I can more easily position these elements that I want up here. As you can see, once you've done it a few times, it kind of becomes a bit more natural working this way. And we're also just worrying about the outline for now because we're going to be adding in these other lines later on. So there is the shape that we want, okay, for that settling frame. And it's going to stay there according to our keyframes until the ball's been pushed away from this hand. So that's going to be there. Yeah, it's then going to stay there until that point. So we can probably hide this now. We don't need it for a minute. Grab our arm layer, and I'm just going to move this keyframe over one. Oops, why has that gone weird? Why is dragging it? It's because it's trying to generate that keyframe there now. So what I'll do instead is I'll copy this keyframe and paste it so that we can then tweak it in this middling frame here. And all I'm going to do is select all of my points, apart from these top three, and just shimmy them down. Put them somewhere in the middle of these two, and then fix the shoulder. Okay. So grab our path, select the points we want to edit to make it look a little bit better on the shoulder area there. There we go. And let's take a look. Boom. Nice. Boom. Boom. I think it might hold there for a frame too long now. So what I'll do is I'll just take these two, push them over one. Yeah, much better. Boff. It does move from there to there quite quickly, I think. So we'll just move these back over. That's going to create a janky frame, don't worry. We'll copy this one and paste it, which will fix that. And then we'll work out drawing something between these two frames, okay? In fact, we're probably better off copying this frame, pasting it there so that it holds on this frame for 2 and then adjusting this, because the end result is going to be more like this frame than it will be on the next one. So we'll just select the points that we want to edit. Let's shift up the elbow points as well. And we'll just drag them up a little bit, I think. Obviously her shoulder's gone very thin there, so we can fatten that back up again, making it look a bit more natural. Let's fix this while we're at it as well, makes her arm look a bit more real. Boom, 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 boom. And I think what we'll do to the fingers there is we'll start to have them curl a bit more too. So again, select the path 1 name, and I'm just going to bring these fingers in a bit more so that they curl. Need to add an extra point here, I think, to make it not look like a weird fat finger. Maybe a couple of extra points so that her fingertip still remains. Okay, and we'll just do that with all the fingers. So just again, going through and checking. That's going to look okay. It hasn't broken. Creating some extra points to have the fingers start to curl back in on themselves. Now, at this point, I will say that obviously I'm not an expert. There may be 1,000 better ways to do this. And if you do know of any, please let me know. I'm not above learning new things. So if there's anything I do in these tutorials that you think, that's stupid, why is it doing it that way? Please do let me know. Just be constructive about it. Obviously, don't just say, you're stupid. But I'm always open to learning new things and trying new things. So if you think you've got a better way of doing it, please tell me. Again, some of these frames might look weird, but you've got to remember about the principles of squash and stretch. Boom. Boom. And about the fact that we'll also be adding shapes to these as well. So good. Let's have a couple of settling frames then. She goes from there to here. So let's add another keyframe. And we'll just have them settle in. To do that, we'll just grab all of our path points here. Select them all. If you wanted to, you can click this, and adjusting this will adjust your path. So you can rotate your path. And it won't affect the layers rotation, if that makes sense. It is directly affecting the path's rotation. So we could add in another keyframe here. And that's the same, I think, as if you've selected a couple points and double click. You can twist and settle just those points. To come back, just select path 1 again and continue like usual. And that means we've got a nice bit of settling in motion there. Pretty good. Boom. Boom. Up. And now by this point, we obviously need it to be back. Back at this original frame here. So just between here and here, we need to decide what's happening. Ignore all that. We just need to decide whether that hand is going to come back down to catch it a little bit before it comes back up. Or whether it's just going to stay in this position and then move to the right slightly. I think it's definitely going to stay in this position for a while. Maybe up until about here. Now, because there's no movement between those, that shouldn't animate. Between here and here, I'd like it to sort of, she's going to be raising, but she would lead down, I think, to catch. Like she'd go like, whoa, rather than just holding it there and catching it, it would go down to like preempt that movement, I think. So let's try that. We know that this is our finishing point. So let's copy that and paste it on every frame so that it doesn't do anything weird and janky between those points. So now let's see what the whole thing looks like. Actually, no, I think just a few to get from here back down to that normal frame, I think is fine. So we'll just hold him there, one, and then we'll have it just take maybe 3 frames. Transition, 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 settle. Let's have it settle there. These 3 frames to get to that original position. So this frame is obviously going to be the most like this one. This frame is going to be the most like the original one here. So we'll just copy and paste. And then this one's going to be the main transitionary period between it. So if I turn these lines back on, just for reference, at the moment, that is going to have these lines on top to make the hand look like it's actually folded over. Those fingers are going to need to kind of go from this to this. Okay, but all we need to worry about now, for now, is just the outline of what that looks like, because the lines are done purposefully on a separate layer. So this one, we'd literally just have these things start to flatten out, I think. So let's grab just our path. We'd have these parts start to be less bulgy. Something like that. The thumb ends up upwards. So we'd bring this thumb in up here. And these fingers would start to lower themselves down. So I think we're going to need an extra point to keep this point in place. So we'll zoom all the way in and we'll click just right next to it. So we can then drag this guy down a bit and start to kind of change where that lump is, as if the hand was going from like this position to like that. And the next one would be kind of like, so here maybe it would help if we had the pinky finger start to sort of eke out as well from the side. So you'd have 1 finger, 2 finger, 3 finger, boom, that way. This one is going to be the biggest change. So we've got from there to there to there to there. So the thumb's looking all right. Leave the thumb as it is. But let's bring the tips of these fingers up. I think something like this, as if they're not quite as long. So just select these points. Maybe delete this point. In fact, let's delete all these points so that we're just left with the thumb. And then what you could do, because it's only there for a single frame, if it makes your life a bit easier, is you could, on a fresh layer, draw in your new fingers. So let's make sure that this isn't moving too far. That seems fine. The hand seems fine. Let's just tweak this arm so it's not exactly the same. Just so it doesn't look completely static. Okay, so we've got boom. That looks a bit thin now. So we'll actually just tweak this one too. That arm looks a bit dodge. So for just 1 frame, we can add in a new shape. Having no layers selected, we can just start to draw in some fingers. Okay, now that's obviously going to be on a brand new layer right at the top. So we'll just drag this down. We'll Alt open square brackets and then Alt close square brackets. That only appears in that one frame. Make it purple. Oh, sorry, not purple. Is it fuchsia? No, that's going to be very pink. It's lavender. So now it's going to get boom, 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 boom. So let's now make this look good. On this layer, we can add in the extra sort of palm bits of the hands that we think we might need as well, because it's only there for one frame. And take a look what that looks like. Kind of weird. That bit looks fine. It's because the thumb doesn't move at all. The thumb needs to look more like that thumb. It's going to be smaller. Maybe it's worth just maybe it doesn't need that middle frame. Boom. Maybe it literally just needs. What do I do? Down. Leave it. Yeah, that's why. It's because it stays downward. Boom, up, boom, up. Yeah. It needs to be like a smooth motion between that. Mm, mm. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, let's tweak this. That's fine. Let's pop this arm down a bit. I think I rotated that the wrong way. It actually be coming out more. Like this, I think. Just move all these points ever so slightly so it's not the exact same frame. Move that hand in a bit. It's the issue with not having onion skin in After Effects. Anyone knows of a way, let me know. That looks a bit better. Just fix out that janky arm going from... So that's janky because these shoulder points don't move at all. See what that looks like. Okay, let's say we're happy with that. I'm not, but let's say we are for now. We're going to take a look at mirroring this now and replacing arm left with it. So what I'm going to actually do is just hide this other arm for a minute. I'm going to take arm right. And I'm going to duplicate it. Still going to be attached to the body. I'm going to find the point where the basketball is caught in the hand, which is here. And then we're going to flip this layer. Transform, flip horizontally. Let's move the whole layer. And we're going to need to offset these points so that we get the point where the arm is at its highest here. And move those over. Again, making sure we're moving the whole layer here. So like it's catching the ball. Now, obviously, at the moment, that's just staying there. Going to catch ball. That's the part where it starts to get pushed down. Sorry. Move these over a bit more again. There it is. Pushing it down. Let's start that a bit earlier. Oh no, I was right. Ball just moves a bit fast. I won't stick to it, so that's fine. We can just glue that to the ball a bit more if we move that back one. Boom, that looks better. Gonna come back up. And then it's gonna loop. So ignore this part. Nice. Back up. So at the start, that frame is up, up into there. And then it's going to be from there. So we actually want it to be, we're going to then take these frames, copy them here. So it's going to come ready to catch, bounce, and then look at the loop. Am I an idiot? Getting to there. And then it goes back to that bit. So we actually need it to be from, if it's catching that bit. It needs to stay there until these bits change. I'll do what? Trim off the excess time. What does that look like? Not bad. Okay. We've now got our arm right and our new arm left. We've got arm left lines, arm left that we can delete now. We don't need it anymore. Now we've just got these two sets of lines. Now we can definitely just delete these and do it frame by frame, which is what I'm going to do. So we'll start with the right hand because it's already there. And this is going to be the exact same process. We'll twirl down these sections. We've got shape 1 and shape 2 here. So we'll have a path for each of these that is keyframed. And we'll just go frame by frame and sort of draw in each of these sections that we need. So I'm going to do that in time-lapse mode because this is already starting to be a long episode. And then once we get there, we'll look at tidying up some of this animation as well because it's a bit janky. We'll fix it. Oof, oof, oof. I think it's because you leave, when you basketball in, you leave the other hand down. So you leave that there. I think it is. You leave that there until the other one. This would then come up with the ball coming up, I think, wouldn't it? Yeah. Yeah, I'm an idiot. Let's fix that. So that comes down, and we'll just have it stay there until we're ready for it to come up and catch that hand again. So let's say this comes like over here, a few frames. Still a few more frames. Boom, boom, boom. It's going to get ready to catch. Yeah, that's why. So those frames are necessary, but these frames are not. Settle, catch. So let's try deleting these. Yeah, that looks a bit more natural. Just watch this arm. Sync them up a bit better, of course. Maybe put them there. Oh, a bit later, sorry, not earlier. Yeah, okay, now apart from the jankiness of that, bit, I think that works. Yeah. Flow-wise. Okay, I'm going to time-lapse mode fix the jankiness of this bit here so that it kind of settles it. And then that arm will be fixed and we'll duplicate it over to the top. So this really is like a flow of consciousness type of tutorial here. As you can clearly tell, it's because it's just so complicated that doing it in like a concisely edited manner just probably wouldn't have worked for me. So that's why this is a little bit back and forth and not as tightly edited as some of my other tutorials. So let's just jump right into fixing this guy then. Okay, so as you can see, I've tidied this up a little bit now. It's looking a bit better. Still not 100%. I'll probably tweak it a bit more after the episode, but I'm kind of losing faith at the moment, so I'll come back to this a bit later. What we're going to do now is just align these line segments to it as well, to the rest of the animation, so that the hands have a bit of definition. What I'm probably going to do is grab a new layer completely. Just delete these current line layers, and with my palette, we're going to eyedropper the line that we need. Excuse me, not on the fill, on the stroke. Making sure that it's again 8 pixels like it was before. And I'm just going to frame by frame do all of the lines on both of the hands on one layer. So for example, this first frame here, we'd need a line like this. Perhaps here too. And then on the other hand, we'd need something similar. And that's the beauty of frame by frame, is that you don't have to be quite so strict with your layers in After Effects when it comes to this sort of thing. And we're just going to go through frame by frame and do all of that now. So I'll see you on the other side of that time lapse. Okay, and so there we have our looping character with the lines as well. You can see there's quite a few keyframes on that one. So with this looping character, the last thing we need to do is just pop our background back on. And I'm just going to animate some of these clouds quickly. I'm going to select this cloud here, choose Wave Warp. We're going to make the width really quite a bit, and the height not so much, maybe 4. Then we're going to select the pinning to be all edges, so that it fixes these top corners. What that means is just going to sort of wobble away in the background there. Maybe we'll change that to 0.5. Maybe we'll even out these numbers a bit. Let's have the wave height be 7. There you go. A bit more of a casual cloud movement there. So we'll select this one, Control C, paste it over there on this cloud as well. So we've got both of those clouds working there, wiggling away. And we'll also just have them drifting in position-wise. Say over the course of 10 seconds, let's have them move inwards a bit. That looks pretty good. Okay, so that's added a bit of background animation to the clouds there, which is nice. We've got our almost looped animation ready to go. That start frame looks close enough to that end frame. In fact, I'm pretty sure it might be almost exact. Yep, apart from the wave warping and some frames here, that's close enough. That means we can loop this now, I believe. So I'm going to select everything that we've got, grab all these layers, and we're just going to pre-compose them. We're going to move all attributes to the new composition, call it scene 1, shot 1 character. Shouldn't break anything. No, looks pretty good. Okay, so now we can twirl down all of our layers here. See where the last keyframe is. I don't think it'll be one of these. Yep. Press N to trim that, right click, trim comp. Now if we go back to our main composition, that's only a few seconds long. Then we can just go to transform. Well, we could loop cycle it, but the easiest thing is just to duplicate it along, like so. Boop, 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 boop. Until we've got a couple of iterations. And let's have a look. Bam, bam. It's pretty good. I think her hips are kind of, yeah, her hips moving there are the biggest change. So we could just slightly heighten, or slightly loweren rather, the hips on that last frame, and we'll be good to go. So if I take these guys here, if we look at our first frame, that's quite low, and then we look at our last frame and they're quite high. So if we take our first frame And instead of heightening the hips, yeah, because the whole thing's a little different. That should be a little bit better. Have a look at that. Not bad. Okay, so we've got that 2 bouncing, bounce, 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 bounce. I'm not sure if I'm even going to have it bouncing more than once, but that'll do for now. Okay, so on the next episode then, we'll be continuing on to the next shots of this. A little bit simpler than what we've done so far. This is definitely the most complicated shot. So hopefully you guys will stick around and enjoy that. What I'm probably going to do actually is release this as one massive video. So these episodes things are kind of, I don't know, just give you nice breaking points for each section. Other than that, though, thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Sorry, this one's been a bit meandering. It's kind of hard to explain what the hell it is I'm talking about otherwise. So I'm hoping to treat this as kind of like a live stream omnibus edition or something. Who knows? Catch you next time on TipTut. Thank you. Goodbye. See you later.
Remember to subscribe for more tips, tricks, and tutorials. Thanks for watching.